On this episode of Speaking of Spirits, Colleen and Kelly discuss haunted castles around the world. Hi everybody, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and I'm here with my co-host Kelly.
Good morning, everyone.
Or Birdie Cuda.
Yeah.
Is that your like for gaming?
Yeah.
Or gaming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in my World of Warcraft days, I just kept the name.
Yeah. And so today we thought we would talk about haunted castles. It's like I love the concept of a haunted castle. I mean, castles should be haunted, right? So
yeah.
It
should be. Yeah.
They should be. They should have. I mean, they're hundreds of years old. Some of them are 1,000 years old or more. And it's like, they should be just packed full of ghosts. I want to live in a haunted castle.
I don't.
Oh, I do. That'd be so cool.
No. It's not the ghost. Well, the ghosts would probably bother me, but it's the heating and the electricity bills that'll kill you.
Well, you got me there. That's true. So the first castle that you wanted to talk about is, let's see. I'm trying to bring it up here. I think it is this one. Yes.
Good old Moosham Castle.
Yeah. What is it called?
Moosham Castle.
So what's the deal with this castle?
Well, this castle used to be an old Roman fortress, but they just built around it. And first record was in 1911. It's been upgraded and extended since then. It sits at the height of 3,500 feet, and for our European listeners, it's 1.08 kilometers, and it sits on a rocky spur. It's a strategical point.
Where is it located? What country? Where are we at?
Austria.
Austria. That is absolutely stunning.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. So, when I was doing some digging, I found there's been like a lot of battles going that happened over in this castle. However, the worst part of this was the Zuber Earl Jackal trial. I don't know what that means in Austrian, so here we go. As the story goes, a woman by the name of Barbara Colleen was arrested for the crimes of theft and sorcery. During her trial, her partner, Paul Kalfenpatcher, admitted that her son, Paul Jacob Kohler made a pact with the devil, and the hunt for Jacob was on. Later, in 1677, authorities got report that Jacob was dead, but a homeless handicapped boy by the name of Feldner told the authorities that he was in contact with Jacob shortly before his arrest. He told them that Jacob was a leader of a gang of homeless kids in the slums, and that he taught them black magic, which resulted in the arrest of many children and teenagers.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
that's so good.
Yeah. So during the interrogation, the story of Jacob, or Jackal as he was known in the streets, the stories of him grew and grew and grew, and the authorities got scared. So, yeah, so this kid tells him about Jackal or Jacob or whatever, and they're like, oh, we practice black magic and stuff, and this and that, and all sorts of stuff. And, yeah, it took off like wildfire. So
what happened to the kids?
I'm getting to that.
Ugh.
In the end, 139 people were executed.
Oh my
One as
God.
young as 10 years old and one as old as 80.
Hmm.
And I'll skip the brutal stuff. Let's just say it was a dark time for that.
What
Um,
year was this?
1677.
Oh, yeah. So right around the witch trials everywhere in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
God dang it.
Yeah.
Poor kids.
So after a while, the castle fell into disrepair until a man by the name of Wilczek bought the castle and returned it to its former glory, bringing his extensive art collection with him.
Hmm.
Um, so that's that. But there's a bonus story, and it's about a bailiff by the name of Anton, who at the time was ruling the castle with an iron fist, and he was known for his cruelty. He took great pleasure in torturing prisoners, and apparently he was a real jerk to his parents, too. So one night, after admiring his work in the dungeons, an awful thought popped into his head. And at this time, it was a raging storm was going on outside. Thunder, lightning, rain, the whole shebang. Spooky, spooky stuff. He shook it off, went upstairs to his apartment to have a drink and relax. During this time, a carriage pulled by 4 black horses approached the gate and opened if it went by magic. Anton was about to doze off when he heard a loud banging on his apartment door. When he answered the door, a man in all black stood there and said, "Good night, my dear man. I have come from hell, and my prince told me to prepare you for your journey." Anton pleaded with the man, but he wouldn't listen. Grabbed him by the scruff of his collar, dragged him away, and threw him into the carriage and took him away. So
Wow.
yeah. So
So he,
if anybody's watched Darby O'Gill and the Little People, remember the
yeah,
scene where the banshee comes to the house and screams in his face, and then you see the carriage with
yeah,
the 4 horses come in?
yeah.
That's what yeah, that's what I thought. I was thinking that same thing when I read that story. I'm like, this sounds like Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
So wait a minute. So was he hauled off?
Yeah,
Then how did we get the story? That's where my analytical head goes, all right? It's like
yeah.
now, then who anyway, that's interesting. So the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or something, right? Yeah. It's kind
No,
of interesting.
no, it's a funeral coach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Funeral coach. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah. Uh I like it. Is there anything else on the castle?
No, just a lot of bloody battles
Man,
way back when, and then those witch trials, man. They killed a lot. They
I can't
tortured.
believe how many they killed. And were they killed inside the castle grounds?
Yes, they were kept
Ugh.
prisoner in the castles and tortured and then executed in the castles.
Something like that, it's not just warfare. You have innocent people being killed. And that's where I mean, in battle, you expect to die, right? You're a
Yep.
warrior, you expect to die. But a child?
Yeah, you're just a
Even,
kid
yeah,
trying to
so,
survive, and
right.
somebody runs their mouth. Next thing you
Yep,
know is you're in a dungeon getting tortured, and you didn't do
yep,
anything wrong.
yep. It's terrible. So, I have a castle and I'm going to share my screen. So should be this one here. Okay, so this one is Dragsholm Castle, and um, it is uh Copenhagen area.
Oh,
So
Germany.
yeah, so it was built by the Bishop of Roskilde. I slaughter every name I come across, so sorry.
Yeah, me too. So
Roskilde around 1215. So it's a very old castle. Obviously built during the Middle Ages. That was or I mean, during the Middle Ages, it was modified from the original palace and to a fortified castle. And it's about 50 miles west of Copenhagen. It's on a slip of ground that a narrow strip of land known as a drag. And why it was called a drag is because the Vikings could drag their ships across the strip of land and then get back into the water instead of sailing all the way around this like big, huge peninsula, very narrow strip of land, and they can just drag it. So their ships. I thought that was interesting. That's why it's called Dragsholm. The castle is said to feature 100 ghosts or more. So again, I want to go and I want to stay there and I want to experience it. Many visitors and psychics have heard voices. They've seen apparitions. The Bishop of Roskilde, Renault, is said to be one of the ghosts that haunt the castle. He was the last Catholic bishop in this area, but he lost everything during the Protestant Reformation. He was imprisoned by the Danish king, and he was held at this castle, where he was confined to a room on the second floor. He eventually passed away there, and so now people can stay in the castle, right? It's like a hotel, and if you are in this room, a lot of visitors who are unfortunate or fortunate, depending on your view, enough to get into this room and stay for the night, you probably will see him. So that's cool. I want that room. It is so cool. Another ghost who's routinely spotted at the castle is Selena Bovuls. She's known as the White Lady of the castle. And she was born into a wealthy Danish aristocratic family, and she was betrothed to the eldest son of another noble family. As the story goes, she fell in love with a commoner, not the nobleman, and who worked in the castle. So when her father found out, he was not very happy with her, because the whole wedding situation back then was to get more power and more wealth. Everybody was married off for more power and more wealth and more land and more soldiers and everything else. So she continued to see her lover until she was married. She ended up having to marry the guy that she didn't love. And unfortunately, she became pregnant by the commoner before the wedding. Uh-oh. So enraged, her dad imprisoned her in this castle. And this is just horrific. He put her in a room and then walled her off like bricks.
Yeah.
And left her to die.
Ugh.
Yeah, so she's apparently they were modern. This was just like said to be like kind of a legend, but when they were modernizing the castle and putting in new plumbing and new electricity, new everything else, they discovered her skeletal remains in the walled off section when they had to remove the wall.
Horrible.
Yeah. So she haunts the castle, and she's apparently seen roaming the halls and crying because of what happened to her. It's horrific. It's horrific. So, yeah.
I mean, how mad do you have to be at your kid to wall them up and just leave them there to die?
I know. It was terrible.
It was a different time back then.
It sure was. So, let's see. Where do you want to go next?
Let's try to. Which one were we?
You want to do Leap Castle, or where are you?
I can do Lep. Yeah, Lep is.
Lep. Okay, let me get to that one. All right, this one is one of my favorites.
What? Yeah, I remember seeing this on I think it was a Travel Channel show. And they did the whole history and everything. It was really super interesting. That's why I remember it. But okay, so this might bounce around here a little bit here and there. But so here we go. So
All right.
this has got to be the spookiest castle I've ever heard of. In and around 250 AD, this castle was built and ruled by the feared O'Carroll clan. And it's about 2 miles from the town of Roscrea. Roscrea? So this all started when two brothers of the O'Carroll clan challenged each other for leadership of their clan. And both of them jumped off this huge rock. And whoever survived got to control the clan. And that's where the name came from, is they leapt from the rock. So Leap Castle. However, there was a much more powerful clan in the area, and that was the O'Carrolls. And the
I
O'Carrolls.
thought you were going to say O'Hara. That would have been
No.
awesome.
It would have been awesome, but no.
Okay, O'Harrell?
O'Carroll.
O'Carroll. Okay.
So the O'Carrolls liked the castle so much that they just took it from them. They did.
Nope.
The O'Carrolls kept the castle until 1649, when it was passed to the Darbys by marriage. Let's see. Okay, so there's some hidden treasure in there in the castle. Well, let's hang on. Let's do the Bloody Chapel. In 1532, Mulrooney O'Carroll, the clan leader, died, and Thaddeus O'Carroll was the family priest and next in line. This didn't sit well with his little brother, One-Eyed Tige O'Carroll. One day during Mass, Tige plunged his blade into his brother's back. Thaddeus bled out in front of his own family. His ghost still haunts the chapel and lights the room. He occasionally lights the chapel up here and there. So, yeah. Oh, man, this family, man. When I was digging into it, man, this family is just the worst dysfunctional family I've ever heard of. I'm not kidding. Okay, so in the 17th century, during the English Civil War, Jonathan Darby and two accomplices hid treasure on the grounds. Jonathan ended up killing the two men that helped him to keep it a secret. Later, Darby was arrested for treason, and after his release, much of the castle has been changed so much he couldn't find it again. So there's that. Now we get to the really gruesome part of this place. So in 1922, workers found a deep hole in the ground hidden behind the chapel. The cartloads of bones were removed from this little dungeon. Cartloads. So 150 human remains were found.
Wow.
A pocket watch dating from the mid-1800s was also found, meaning that it was used pretty recently.
Wow. So like a pauper's grave?
An oubliette?
Like a pauper's grave? Like
No.
no?
No. Do you know what an oubliette is?
No.
Oh.
But
An oubliette is a little French word for a place of forgetting. It's where you took people that you don't like and toss them in a hole. They fall down the hole and land on sharp wooden spikes at the bottom. So they push you.
Yeah.
You fall. And if you were lucky, you hit the spikes and you died immediately. If you were unlucky and missed the spikes, you starve to death down there.
It's
And
terrible.
what a lot of these castles did was they put an oubliette in a corner of a dining hall. So you go there, the king goes, get rid of them. You get tossed down a hole, and if you were lucky, you died instantly. If you were unlucky, you had to sit there for a week while they held banquets and
you're starving
dances,
to death. Yeah.
and you're starving, and all you can smell is all that food. So real nasty business.
Well, how deep is a hole for 100? Did they die and then they bring them out of the hole and put them in another hole? Because 150 bodies, that's pretty. It's a lot of space.
Yeah, it's a lot of space. So I'm guessing, they might have went in there every once in a while and like
Cleaned them all out,
body
put them in another hole.
off the stakes and just chuck them in a corner.
Yuck.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that being your job, the oubliette cleaner.
No. The fascinating. Do you have more about the castle? Because I have some paranormal stories about it. But
I got one more, and this is the part of that show that I watched that creeped me out the most.
Yeah,
and that was the story of the elemental that roams the property.
Yes.
And the theory is that long before the castle was built, the land belonged to the Druids, and they thought it was a special place because there was both ley lines there and the ground was really super fertile. So some people think they conjured up the elemental to protect the land, while others think someone else conjured up the elemental to get revenge on the O'Carrolls that were running the castle. So it doesn't show up unless it's challenged. And whatever you think, don't challenge it. Somebody said that they saw this thing, and they described it as the size of a sheep, thin and shadow-like, with a face that looked human but was not. And it also came with a putrid stench of a decomposing body. So, with that old TV show that I watched, they kind of made up what this elemental thing looked like, and it was just,
That's fascinating. So there are a lot of pictures online, and this is one that's shared. That's some of the images people take when they are at the castle. This very clearly looks to me skeleton human. I mean it.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Or human, but it looks more skeletal than anything else to me. But the elemental pictures, and I've seen different shows that have been there, right? And they're doing investigations there. And those elementals, it's pretty interesting because they've gotten the lights out in the forest dancing around, and those seems like they are definitely protective of the castle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't want to challenge that thing at all. Not at all.
Okay, so my next castle that I'm going to talk about is the Castle of Good Hope in South Africa. And this is the castle. It's pretty interesting structure, the way they built it. And it has it was definitely built as a fortress. It was in 1666 through 1697. How it took, a long time for them to build. It consisted mostly of clay and timber, and it was built actually to supply ships that were passing the coast around the Cape. So they could stop there and get some supplies, but it was also, obviously, as all castles are, used as a prison.
Yeah.
And there's a bell tower that was added to the castle in 1684, and that was used to ring when they would ring the bell, and the bell is still there. In certain pictures, you can see it, but when the bell, and I think it's actually, you can see it right in the very front of this castle. There's something, an object that's sticking up. Let me see if I can.
That's a bell tower.
Yeah, that's the bell tower. So that they would ring that when there was problems anywhere to alert people, and apparently you could hear that bell for several miles, and it would alert people to get to the castle and that something was going down, right? So 1684, the bell tower was added, and then 1899 to 1902, they added a torture chamber to the castle, because why not? It was called...
Be a castle without a torture chamber. Everybody
I
knows
know,
that.
right? You can't be proper without torture. So it's Donker Gat, which means the dark hole, and it was a windowless dungeon. And sometimes in the winter, it floods with water all the way to the ceiling, so any prisoners held in there are going to drown because there's no way out.
Sounds par for the course.
Yeah, but at least it wasn't that thing you told me about at Lep Castle. I don't know which is worse, right? Workers and visitors report hearing voices and footsteps in the windowless dungeon, which is still there. And the bell tower apparently will sometimes ring on its own, and people hear it for miles. And then there's a legend that says that there was a soldier that there used to be a long rope that you would ring the bell, right? And now that area is bricked off and it's just the bell up there. I don't know that the bell is functional, like there's any way to ring it anymore because the rope is gone. And it's heavy. The wind's not going to knock that thing around. Those things are heavy.
Yeah.
And I actually lived in a town in Pennsylvania where they still make those giant bells, and like the Liberty Bell and all those bells. Those things are amazing. They're so big. And so the legend says that a soldier once hanged himself by the rope. And so he's the one who's ringing the bell. Even though, yeah. There's also a vicious black dog that is said to haunt the castle grounds. It lunges at people, and it's snapping and lunging at people, and then it disappears. So that would be terrifying.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard of a black dog haunting like grounds like this before. It's there. It might be protecting something, or it's just being a bad dog.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people associate that black dog with a demonic spirit. I tend to think it's more, I don't know. I don't know that it's necessarily demonic, but it's not good. It's not good.
I think it's more of a warning, because if you've ever listened to, I don't know if you ever saw that movie way back when, I think it was a Patrick Swayze movie, and it was called, I think it was called Black Dog. And he was a semi-truck driver, and I never saw it, but I just remember seeing the trailer for it. And he was a truck driver. He's driving down the road. He starts nodding off, and as soon as he's doing this, and then he snaps and comes to, and he sees a black dog in the middle of the road, and then bad things start happening to him. And somebody's like, "Well, what happened?" And he's like, told him I was falling asleep. When I snapped back into reality, there's a black dog in the middle of the road. And they're like, "Oh no." So, and then they tried to fix it. But yeah, I heard a lot of stories, a lot of truckers saying, I was nodding off at the wheel, because over the road truckers,
Yep.
It's a straight line most of the time. So they start nodding off, and they come to, they either see a black dog running along the side of their truck, or they see one in the middle of the road. And that's kind of a warning to pull over somewhere, get coffee.
Yeah.
Get arrested.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah. And people have also claimed to see a tall man leaping off the castle walls, like the top. They're there visiting the castle and touring it, and then this guy plunges to his death. And then obviously he's not really there. So when you run over there and then he disappears. A man and a woman are frequently heard arguing in one of the guards' rooms, and if people go to check it out, then they see like a shapeless figure in the room, and then it disappears. And then there are still soldiers that this is still sold. I don't know if it's an active like castle, but there's still soldiers that guard it. Apparently, according to what I've read, I don't know if they really are there now, but and so at night the soldiers they avoid any of the archways. They won't pass in front of them because they always feel like something's going to come out and get them. So they will walk to an arch and then back. They won't walk like across that arch opening there, like in the front or any of the archways. They don't like them.
Oh, they feel like they're going to get ambushed?
Yeah, I don't know. No, it sounded more paranormal. Like they fear restless souls will come through those archways. So Lady Anne Bernard also haunts the castle. She lived there until the late 18th century. And as the first lady, her job was to entertain really important guests that came to the castle. And apparently, even today, if they have more distinguished guests that are coming to the castle to visit it, she will make an appearance because that's her job.
Yep.
And then Governor Peter Gisbert van Noot, again, names. He was very strict, and he is said to haunt the castle. He sentenced 7 men to death on April 23rd, 1728. And he refused to grant the prisoners' last wishes before hanging them. And so one of the prisoners cursed Van Noot, and he was found dead in his office that same day after they were hanged, and the guy cursed him. He apparently had a heart attack. So today, workers and visitors hear him cursing and swearing inside the castle walls.
Wow.
Yeah.
And on the same day too, they're like, "Well, you're good." They're like, "Well, you're gonna die." And they're like, "Can I get my last? Can I get my last wish?" And he's like, "Nah."
Right.
They're like, "All right, well." And then he dies in his office.
I know. So, well, that's that. So you had one last castle to share, right?
Yeah, Berg Eltz.
I got it. Castle up here. It's a beautiful castle.
It is. And, I was looking at, see that? That is...
It's really spectacular.
That is a fairy tale castle right there.
It is.
Mm-hmm. So, sitting in the hills of Wershim, Germany, W's are V's in German, is a castle sitting on a 230-foot high rock spur and a train. And it's still there, and you can take tours. But it comes with a tragic story. Agnes Eltz, daughter of the 15th Count of Eltz, was a tomboy of sorts. She loved to play warrior with her brothers. Agnes was promised to the Knight of Braunsberg. They occasionally met to get to know one another, but Agnes thought he was boring and dull, so she ignored him.
Good girl.
This angered the knight. So one night, at a festive gathering, the knight pulled Agnes onto the dance floor and kissed her. Agnes got so angry, she smacked him across the face.
Good girl.
The knight became so infuriated he left the castle. Of course, the family became concerned and doubled the guards. Pretty soon, the days became weeks into months, and the family finally thought that the knight gave up and became disinterested. So the men in the family left for a week-long hunting trip. This was the chance that the knight was waiting for. The same night, the knight and his men entered the courtyard and killed the guards. When Agnes saw what was happening, she leapt into action, donning her brother's helmet, breastplate, and battle axe. Brave little Agnes went to meet the knight head on, which startled him. He didn't know who this person was that's running up on him. The knight fired his crossbow into the soldier, and the bolt killed him instantly. When he went to see who his opponent was, he removed the helmet and revealed that it was poor little Agnes. So,
Quite the warrior girl.
yeah.
So the same family, isn't the same family has owned this castle and maintained it for like 8 centuries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there have been other spooky things going on. Agnes is seen in the Countess' room every once in a while, and she roams the halls, and she likes to turn off and on the lights and opening and closing doors. There's also been a report of childlike laughing in the castle, and there's also reports of a phantom knight at the front gates. Some people think that it's the knight looking for Agnes's forgiveness. So
yeah, these stories are just amazing. But the castles themselves, that they're still here, and they're still here, and they're still functioning, and people are still maintaining them, and
yeah, you can go and see them on tours. They're still there.
Yeah, it's very cool, and the fact that it's the same family. I mean, I think that's fascinating to me. It's the same family still in charge of this castle. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed these stories. I love haunted castles. If you've been to any of them or all of them, let us know. Or if you've been to another one that just was trippy with paranormal activity, let us know. Of course, you have the what if you want to call it infamous Transylvanian castle out there. I have a friend who actually lived in Transylvania for, I want to say, close to 20 years. And he's told me some pretty amazing stories. I wish I could get him on the show, but he doesn't want to talk about them because they were pretty trippy. He said they were pretty scary to him. So anyway.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of that castle. I know I looked at it.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's such a dark history of that castle. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed the show. Hang with us, and we'll keep bringing you content, and we really enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. Please share the shows. We need all of that. It does help us. We're a paranormal group. We don't charge for any paranormal investigations or any of the work in the community. When people call us in to ask for help, we never charge for anything like that. So if we can make a dime once in a while off of YouTube, that would be awesome for us to help us replenish some of our equipment that always breaks on an investigation, no matter how careful you are. So anyway, like and subscribe, share. And that's it for us.
Good night, everybody. Or good morning.
Bye.
You've been listening to Speaking of Spirits, powered by Pocatello Paranormal Research in Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad you could be here. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do us a favor and go to whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star reviews. This helps us know how we're doing, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.